Hello, everyone. Happy Black History Month. I'm Carly Ann with Parsons Entrepreneur Academy, and thank you all for joining us today for our monthly office hour series. Here we invite successful and inspiring entrepreneurs and leaders to share their stories and the lessons they've learned along the way. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, Parsons Entrepreneur Academy is a platform that empowers creative entrepreneurs like yourself to build sustainable businesses around your art. And we achieve this through our three pillars that include mentoring, training, and community. You can visit parsonsentrepreneur.com to learn more about our platform. All right, so let's jump into the good stuff. Today, I'm very excited to be joined by Polly Irungu. So, Polly is a multimedia journalist and the founder of Black Women Photographers, a global community and directory of 800 plus Black women and non binary photographers, and most recently served as a digital editor at New York Public Radio. As a self taught photographer, writer, and founder, Polly's work has been published in numerous publications, including Adobe's Creative Magazine, the New York Times, Reuters, Global Citizens, NPR, BBC News, Refinery 29, The Washington Post, BuzzFeed, CNN, and others. In 2017, Polly completed a degree in journalism from the University of Oregon. Born in Nairobi, Kenya, Polly has lived around the world from Nairobi to Topeka, Kansas, to Eugene, Oregon, to Washington, D.C., to Little Rock, Arkansas, and ultimately Brooklyn, New York. All right. Hi, Polly.
Hi, Carly Ann. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us. I'm really excited to have you share your amazing story and talk about the awesome work that you're doing at Black Women Photographers. So, before we jump into the amazing work that you're doing with the platform, can you tell us a bit about your background from Nairobi, Kenya?
I know people are always like, wait, what? And then I say Kansas, and they're like, what? Like, because they assume that I like grew up in New York all my life or whatever it may be. But yeah, so I'm originally from Nairobi, as you mentioned. We moved to the States when I was really young, a toddler. So I grew up in Topeka and also in Lawrence, Kansas. So shout out to any Kansas in here, Midwesterners. I then, after my freshman year of high school, I moved to Oregon. My dad's job relocated because otherwise I would not have picked Oregon initially for a move. But we moved to Oregon. I want to say it was, I can't remember what year I was supposed to, after my freshman year of high school. And it was really just a hard time, just adjusting. It was my first major move. Back in Kansas, like a lot of people don't know this unless you knew me then. It's like I was very active, very outgoing, very loud. Like now my voice is like so soft spoken, but I was, playing sports, just like super involved in the community. And then I stopped all of that when I moved to Oregon. It was really hard for me to adjust at first. Like I mentioned, it was my first major move. And so I spent my sophomore year in Portland, Oregon. Didn't really make the most of it. Then we moved to Eugene, Oregon, my junior year. So I finished up my high school in June at Sheldon High School in Eugene. So I did my junior and senior year there, and then it just made sense to stay in state for college financially. I received a scholarship to the University of Oregon, so that's where I studied journalism as my degree. And then at that time, I actually picked up my camera because I was really having a hard time adjusting to the state still. And one of my high school counselors mentioned, like getting involved, and I'm like, oh, okay. And so I joined yearbook. That was like my first time really actually picking up a camera. Realized I loved it. And it really helped me just cope because I was really just in a dark place. And this was just that positive outlet that I needed. And so at the time I was working like a typical high school job, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna buy a camera and I'm gonna buy a laptop, and I just like started taking photos and just taught myself. And honestly, it was like obviously it's worked out. But you know, at the time you just don't know. I just needed something again like a positive outlet, and photography found me in that sense. So
Amazing. And you also you're also a journalist as well. So how did that evolve for you or develop for you?
yeah, that was also just like the interesting thing because you know coming from a traditional Kenyan upbringing, immigrant background. I mean, if there's any other immigrants, you all who are listening understand like you know you're expected to pursue more traditional careers like doctor, lawyer, and you know engineer. That running joke, there's truth to it. You know, my mom's oldest of 12, and so even in my large family, it's all academia, it's all like nurses and doctors. I'm the only journalist in my family so far yet because my brother, not because I've paved the way, my brother is pursuing PR. So he's gonna be like in that kind of world of media. So I always like give him a hard time. It's like, you know, I did this for that you can like not do this because I already received all the flack for pursuing journalism.
Yeah.
Because you know, my dad, I you know, I tell this story sometimes when it's like I still remember when I like okay made the decision to do journalism because it just made the most sense to me at the time because I realized I enjoy photography. My high school counselor told me that you know there's careers that you can be a photojournalist. I had no idea. And so I just realized that I you know enjoy talking to people. I enjoy photographing them. I enjoy getting there to you know hear their story. And so journalism made the most sense. And so naturally I just started doing writing and social media and all those other things along with it. But at the time, again, I just didn't know. And so I was studying, it was like my sophomore/junior year of college, and my dad would like send me this like list of like top 10 lowest degrees, and journalism would be on the list. I'm like, well, thanks, Dad. I'm already doing it. There's no going back now. And so yeah, it was really just the thing that really made the most sense. It called to me. You know, you don't want to do something that you don't enjoy, you know? It's easier said than done, but at the end of the day, you have to do what you love. And for me, that was journalism. And so I've been doing a lot of freelance writing lately. Again, I really just love storytelling, whether it's through, you know, written words, photography, social, I really just love to do that. And I found that, you know, if you're able to flex these different muscles, it'll just make you a better around, you know, visual storyteller, better photographer, better journalist, whatever. So you know, try to get more skills on your tool belt. Try to flex those muscles when you can, especially now that we're in this pandemic. You know, when I'm not able to go out and shoot, which is a lot of times actually, because of the organization I run takes up a lot of my time. But when I'm not able to do that, you know, I'm able to like do some freelance writing. I'm able to like still, you know, do work in other ways. So.
All right, awesome, and kudos to you for sticking to your passion against the pressure. So can you tell us a bit more about your work? Like, what kinds of stories do you enjoy telling through your photojournalism work?
Yeah, so I think for me, like when I first started my photography, again, I really didn't know what I was doing. I was just photographing things that I enjoyed. So I photographed sports, I photographed music and concerts. I think I've only paid for one concert in my life because I actually wanted to go as, you know, as a fan and not as a professional. Um, I photograph a lot of portraits and fashion work. Some of my most recent assignments were like New York Fashion Week and Afropunk and that festival. So again, I really just do what I enjoy. When it comes to like the actual photojournalism, I remember I think my first sense of that when I was just doing it as a citizen journalist in that kind of sense. I was in high school, and Occupy Eugene was a huge movement. Occupy, you know, that movement was huge at that time, and I just started documenting protests. Um, I just felt called to just like be out there and just document what's going on. Again, no formal training. I just photographed what was around me. And so I photographed that protest. I remember photographing some protests related to Black Lives Matter, like Ferguson as well on campus. And really any campus activity that was happening for almost, all of the multicultural clubs. I was there. I was one of the go-to photographers on campus because I just, again, felt it was important to document those moments. Some of them I would submit to CNN at the time, had a platform called CNN iReport, where you just, again, you're reporting what you see in your community, your backyard. And so some of the times I would report things there and give myself like that kind of push to get my work seen, to get these stories out in the world. Other times it was through different internships. So one of my news-related internships was with the Arkansas Democrat Gazette when I was in Little Rock, Arkansas for 6 months. And my task there was a digital intern, which meant like doing social related things, but also like doing breaking news and general interest stories. So some of the things I would pitch would be outside of just like the breaking news, the things that would be assigned to me. I was like, in order to like incorporate my love for photography and just also hearing people's stories, I pitched a series about how Black-owned restaurants got their start, and I would profile different Black-owned restaurant owners in Little Rock. And so that was just also, again, a form of storytelling, a form of just flexing my different muscles, writing, and also photography. So
Amazing. And while you were doing this work, like what were some of the things that you saw or picked up where you saw that there were challenges in the industry for Black women photographers?
yeah, it really goes back to, again, my time in Oregon, because for those who don't know, Oregon is a predominantly white state. Even the university I went to is predominantly white, at least the numbers then. I'm sure it has changed now. But really just navigating, again, an industry where journalism is predominantly white, and then photography is another predominantly white industry, and like navigating two very white industries. It's hard for anyone who's of just any background, but just like as a Black woman, I can only speak for myself, but I mean, trying to navigate that, again, I was in a new state. I mean, I didn't know any other photographers who looked like me. And I didn't really know where to turn to for resources or for opportunities. And it just felt like I was like shouting in the voids and just like, hoping that someone would notice, little me in Oregon. Like it was really hard just to think about, again, navigating that. And so I was just like going through the motions, I felt like, for some time. I graduated in 2017, had my internship in DC at NPR for the social desk. And then after that, I was in Little Rock, Arkansas for that other internship I mentioned. And then after Little Rock, I moved to Brooklyn, New York, a huge, market, obviously. But still, even being in that huge market, I still felt very alone. I still felt that, I didn't have a community. I still was like, how am I doing this thing? Like, how do I like make a living out of my photography? I still just didn't know any of these things. Because again, I'm self-taught, didn't know who to turn to, couldn't ask anyone in my immediate circles. And so it was really just hard navigating that. For journalism related questions, I learned about the organization NABJ, which is the Association for Black Journalists, and that was very critical for me as, a young Black journalist. But then I'm like, okay, where can I turn to as a young Black, woman photographer? And so there wasn't that many communities out there catered to Black women. And so for me, I just reached a point where, at the time when I was in Oregon, I actually made this Twitter list called Black women photographers, just where I could have like a source of inspiration. Of course, I wasn't thinking I was going to start a community. I just did that for my own personal selfish reasons. And then in 2020, there was, all these conversations surrounding like the Black Lives Matter protests, surrounding about, should Black photographers be the ones telling these stories of the protests? Who gets the right, to tell these stories, and etc. And I just tweeted on my Twitter list for editors who were trying to assign stories of that nature, of movements that were happening. Just not thinking any of it, but I then had photographers reach out to me, like, put me on this list, or like, you should do something more with this. And then I started reaching out to some of the photographers, and I was, just really just trying to get a sense of understanding what was needed, because I knew what I needed as a photographer, and the path that I have taken to get to where I'm at. I knew that, but I don't know what it was like for everybody else. I wasn't sure if this was an isolated feeling, or everyone is fine and maybe it's just me. And I realized that there was a lot of common sentiments, based out of just people who like just shared openly like how they were doing, in the industry, how many assignments they were getting, how many paid opportunities they were getting, the visibility, the sense of community. Like, a lot of people were very open to me about that. And, after hearing all these like, just like, again, common threads, I realized that there was still a lot of work to be done for Black women photographers in the industry. That gap wasn't really filled. And again, with the answers, there was still a lot of issues about just like visibility, of getting opportunities, paid opportunities, making sure that the paid work we're getting, we're not being undercharged, from our counterparts, that we are getting a fair rate, that we're getting real equity in this industry. And so hearing everybody's answers, whether they were based in the States or whether they were based internationally, like, are all having these same issues. Obviously, there's something that needs to be done. And what did I know about starting? I mean, I didn't know anything about starting an organization or whatever, but I just felt like there needed to be something done. And so I just did it. And I don't know. It's really weird thinking about it now, because I feel like it hasn't stopped. Like, ever since I remember I literally tweeted this on June 3rd of 2020. And when I tweeted, I was like, I literally said, I'm making this a thing. I was like, I reshared my Twitter list and said, I'm making this a thing. Here's blackwomenphotographers.com. Follow the Twitter handle at BLK Women Photo, because Twitter's characters. I had to shorten it. And here's the Instagram handle at Black Women Photographers. And ever since then, it feels like it hasn't slowed down. It's just been like a huge, I don't know, roller coaster. It's like, I launched it in July 7th of 2020. But a few weeks prior to the launch, I actually made a COVID-19 relief fund, just again based off of the responses I heard from the people in the community of the dire need for financial relief, because even prior to the pandemic, they were having a hard time getting paid work. They were having, just that financial like stability was not a thing for them. And so I just crowdsourced, never fundraised in my life. Don't know if I ever want to fundraise again, because it's hard. But I just started crowdsourcing in June of 2020 for this COVID-19 relief fund. And I was able to raise $14,000 on Twitter through GoFundMe. A little over $14,000, and helped Black women photographers in the States and internationally who needed that immediate financial relief. And in the following month, in July, I launched the database, because my whole goal was really just to have a one-stop shop for people to like, utilize this resource to hire us. Because a lot of the times, the things I was hearing from editors and just people in general was like, we don't know where to look, we can't find it. I'm like, well, my Twitter list has like over 400 people. So clearly there are Black women photographers and Black non-binary photographers in this industry. It's just that maybe you need just a place to find them. And so I launched the directory in July with about 100 photographers. Now there's a little over 1,000 photographers in 32 states and 45 countries the last time I checked. And I just really, again, I'm very excited, because it's just like, it's taken a life of its own. My goal was just the directory, and now I've been able to, have so many different workshops and events to really help photographers with their professional development. I've been able to have free portfolio reviews since August 2020. And portfolio reviews can cost typically hundreds, and here I'm able to offer this vital resource for free to the photographers, connect them to editors at New York Times, Washington Post, Reuters, AP. NPR, National Geographic, you name it, I've probably connected someone to that outlet or wherever. And so, those different type of offerings, and most recently the different grant offerings, again, all of the things that I didn't know I'd be able to do right away, but it's just been, again, very thankful for the reception that it's been receiving. Shows you that there was a clear need for it, not just for us to have a community, but just for the industry to have this as a resource. So yeah.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
Well, I mean, you launched this like in the midst of the pandemic, and you've done so already. Like, what are some examples of impact that you've had that you're most proud of that you saw coming out of this for some of the photographers?
Oh, man, I mean, for me, it's just like I don't even know where to begin. I guess it's like, okay, there's like there's like the numbers, right? It's like I've been able to get quite a few hired at different brands, different publications, and that's amazing because that's why I used the hashtag hire Black women photographers from the start, because I wanted us to be hired. But now there's more so of like, okay, now I just recently just did the announcement for the grants in partnership with Nikon. I established a grant fund with Nikon, and being able to create a grant fund and then do it with the Nikon, and for the amount that we did it at, it's 40,000 in project funding and 10,000 in gear, more than 10,000 in gear actually. And being able to do that, not only just have these countless workshops that's been helping with career development, but also just the fact that now you may even receive funding for your project, or you may receive equipment. I mean, I remember the first time I bought equipment, it was like $1,500 again, and it's not, that's expensive. That's a lot of money, especially if you don't know if you'll actually be able to make a career out of this, if you don't know where your next paycheck will be, if you're just hoping it'll work out. Spending $1,500 on equipment is a huge investment, and that doesn't even count laptop, that doesn't even count your website fee, your domain. There's all these added costs that you're not thinking of, but that creates a barrier to entry for so many, and that's why a lot of people just don't even start, because that is just daunting in itself. And so being able to do that, but most importantly, really just to foster a community. I mean, I feel like community diversity, some of the times that can be buzzwords for people, for brands, for organizations, but I feel like there really is a sense of community, and being able to foster that during these times that we've been in, this now year 3 of a pandemic. It's just something, again, I will never take for granted, because as much as work that goes into this, I mean, there's also so much just joy that I get from this as well, being it because this community, I mean, like, being able to have a community while we're experiencing some of the hardest times that we'll ever be experiencing. I mean, it's everything, right? There's been countless photographers who told me, Polly, before, learning about BWP, before joining, I was going to stop photography altogether. That means their voices, their perspectives, we would have been missing out on those stories out of their, just them, documenting through their lens if they had stopped, right? There's photographers, again, who just didn't have the financial, capabilities to be able to continue this practice. They then received a grant, and that was very validating. That helped give them that, lifeline. Or they received, some of the aid that I gave out during the COVID-19 relief fund. That really gave them a lifeline during the hardest period that we were all experiencing. And so there's moments like that. And then again, just that support I see the community give each other, how, it's one thing to show up for yourself, but it's another to show up just for a community, show up for each other. They pour back into this community and to each other. And so being able to see that while we're all just trying to like survive, right? We're just trying to stay alive, has really just been, something I will never take for granted, because you can say it, you can say you have a community, but then to actually see it, to actually see each other show up for each other, to be able to turn to them for advice, for help, whatever. There's been a lot of, moments, even some moments that have been happening right now where people are going through really hard, difficult like life moments. And now they actually have a community to turn to for that additional support to lean on. Outside of just talking about photography, this is talking about like life. Just trying to get through some hard things that come your way. And so, again, having people that you can turn to outside of just work stuff, outside of again photography, it's everything. And so, I think that right there, and along with the additional things I mentioned, the grants, the job opportunities, the brand partnerships, etc. Like all of that is amazing. But again, having that real sense of community, it's probably for me like the best thing out of this so far.
Amazing. And like I would love to jump into talking about, the lessons that you learned along the way. So for people
how much time do we have? No. There's a lot. It's crazy because again, it's just I mean I launched it in July 2020, and so it hasn't even been 2 years yet. But yeah, I mean, you just learn by doing. So like a lot of people just ask me like, how do I work with brands? I mean, there's some things you just don't know until you do it, right? And even like with this, like starting an organization, I didn't know what to expect. I just was trying to, create a solution for, people who look like me, for the industry. And now I'm learning that, there's a lot of things that people don't realize and see behind the scenes. I think I spend like most of my nights answering emails, and then just doing a lot of admin work. And so trying to create that balance is something I'm going to continue to work on. But yeah, sorry. I'll let you ask the question. Yeah. I was just thinking about like, man, like there's been so many lessons. I don't know.
Well, let's like start with like some specific things. So you talked a lot about building community and how important the community aspect is to it. So, a lot of like great missions and organizations are built around community. What are, like top 2 best practices or advice that you would give to someone that you've learned about being good community?
I think the first one would be just to listen, right? Listening is a fundamental skill that gets, overlooked sometimes. Listen, because like I said, like I only know my journey. I only know, the things I've had to deal with, the things I've gone through to get to where I'm at. I don't know the next person's journey. I haven't walked in their shoes. And so by listening to them, this community is so vast now, right? There's over 1,000 people. Again, 1,000 different stories, 1,000 different paths that have been walked, from here in the States to internationally. I don't know what it's like to be a Black woman photographer in Lagos, Nigeria, in the Netherlands, the Caribbean, like, or even in Dallas, Texas. Like, I just don't know. I'm not in these areas. And so for me, it's like the biggest thing that I've been doing is just listening to my community, listening to, what is it that they need? Is it more grant opportunities? Is it more educational, workshops? Like, what is it that the community needs, and trying to figure out how to best serve the community. So that's the first lesson. I think the second lesson would then be, I mean, I don't know. I guess it's really after you listen, I think you should act. Because again, for me, like I really wanted to start this with some type of action. I really wanted to be thoughtful and intentional with the space I was carving out. And so that's why, I launched it with the COVID-19 Relief Fund. And I was able to, be able to have this action already right off the jump, starting with an action item, starting with a positive solution for the community. And then since throughout, there's just been nonstop actions, right? There's been the dozens of workshops. If you go to the YouTube channel, Black Women Photographers, you'll see dozens of workshops related to the business side of photography, to marketing, to just great conversations with notable figures in the industry. You'll even if you go to our feeds, you'll see us do Twitter Spaces and other things. And then there's been the portfolio reviews, the work, the grants, and now the in-person meetups as well. So it's just been nonstop, actionable things for the community. And I think, because again, in 2020, there was a lot of conversations being made. And we've been waiting for brands and other organizations to deliver on the things that they said, right? And that hasn't been the case. Some have, some kept their promises to, artists, but most of them haven't. And so it's like you can do a lot of listening, you can hold a lot of conversations, but at the end of the day, people will get tired of just, talking and just waiting for you to do something. So for me, it's like, that's Nike. Somehow else like do something now. But for me, I'm just trying to be really thoughtful with every action that I do. And so I guess those would be the first two lessons. I hope that helps.
Yeah, I mean, talking about brands and brands upholding to these commitments, you've been able to get some awesome partnerships brokered, whether it's with Getty Images or Adobe. What are some things, like people who are looking to broker partnerships with brands for around their mission? What are some lessons that you would impart on them in terms of reaching out and properly like brokering those relationships and getting an outcome that's meaningful and in line with your community? What are some things that people should be aware of in order to successfully get partnerships?
Yeah, I mean that's a great question because the names of course are nice, right? Like you mentioned Adobe, you mentioned Getty Images, Nikon, and the list continues, and that is great and all, but I think at the end of the day, it's really just being intentional, like, what purpose does this partnership serve, right? Is it really beneficial to the community? Is the company or brand or whoever that you want to work with, like you noted in your question, are they in line with your values of the organization or just like the interests of the community? Is it really actually going to be beneficial to you all, or is it just better for them, right? Sometimes it's things can just be beneficial to the brand or the organization. I think people forget that, we actually hold so much power, right? I mean, I don't partner with every brand that reaches out because I recognize now, what is actually being, again, like purposeful, like what is actually trying to be intentional, like what is actually really serving this community, or is it just to make them look good? Here's a global community of Black women photographers. I'm not trying to align with just anyone just to check their boxes. I don't need to do that. And so recognizing that, the power that I have, the power that this community has, and really just making sure that, we don't get taken advantage of, especially during these times. I think for me, it's like the biggest thing. And so really just remembering that, what are what is this serve for this community that you're trying to serve? And really just being thoughtful about it, looking at their practices, do your homework on that brand, see how they've shown up for your community in other times. Is it just once a year, during a particular month, or is it actually thoughtfully throughout the year? Really do your homework and make sure it makes sense. Because that's what I try to do, and I try to make sure it's beneficial to the community first and foremost, and not just because it's a cool sounding name or a name that we all know or whatever it may be. So
Awesome. And let's go back to action, right? You talked about taking action, and your mission and everything that you're doing is amazing, but you're a human, right? And
yes, I hope people who are watching us remember that.
like, are you doing this full time, or are you doing this along with outside work as like journalism work outside of this?
Yes, I'm doing this outside of my full-time job. I actually have a full-time job.
Mhm.
And I've, even when I launched this, I had a full-time job in news. So I've always been doing this, with a full-time job. And so really it's like, the saying of like, you do your 9 to 5 and then your 5 to 9 is, your passion or whatever. Like in that same sense, I guess this is what I'm doing. Um, and then also doing like my freelance work as well. And so yeah, I think one of my biggest goals this year, because I started to do this last year and then got so caught up with like the grants and things like that, that I really didn't give it the time it deserved, and so I just put a hold on that process. But this year I really need to establish a core team, because outside of just some of the small initiatives I've been able to delegate, that I have been doing everything on my own as well. And so it's a lot of hats to wear. Like I'm already someone who wears a lot of hats. But then within this work, there's a lot of hats. There's like the emails, which if someone's listening, I probably owe you an email. There's the brand partnerships. There's the outreach, there's the social media, there's the programming of events, there's the grants. I mean, there's a million more things I probably could name as well. And so being able to be doing that while, having a full-time job, while also just navigating my own, careers and my own career interests, it's not easy. I think social media can give this advertisement or whatever false sense that everyone has it together. That's so, like you just see the highlight reels on social, and that's not the case, right? There's a lot of work that goes behind the scenes, a lot of care and time that's being put out and before anybody sees anything that I post online. And so I think that is one of the challenges, but yeah, not yet. maybe one day I'll do this full time, but right now it's just been my labor of love. So
That's amazing. So let's talk about, I don't like using the word balance necessarily because that looks different for
right,
everyone.
right.
Uh, but how do you, I guess, what do you put in place to manage your time and also like, to take care of your mental health and well-being, like in the process? Like what do you try to like put in place as a one woman band to make sure that you don't burn out and you
Yeah. Honestly, I think the first 6 months or so, I probably didn't have anything put in place, and that was, a problem. Um, I was just like, go, 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 right? It was just like, oh my God, it's taking off. Oh my God, there's so much excitement on social. And now the momentum has not, hasn't slowed down ever since the launch. And so now that I'm quickly realizing that, I'm getting better at, just putting up different things. And so for me, it's like, one, I used to like check my email like at all the hours that I would receive emails. And that's unhealthy, right? Like responding back to an email at 3 a.m., like that's ridiculous. So now I no longer do that. If because some of the people I work with, they are based internationally. And so now it's like, I wake up at 8 or 6 or 7 or whatever I wake up, um, I'm just gonna respond to your emails when I'm up, right? I know it sounds like so like silly saying it, but it's true. It's just like I used to be like feeling like I had to be on the whole time, especially dealing with, again, this is a global community. A lot of the brands I work with are based internationally. I really felt the urgency that I had to be on when they were on. But ever since I read this quote that was like, I think it was a tweet. I can't remember from who, but it was like, someone else's emergency is not your urgency. Like I probably butchered that, but it's like it just like a light bulb went on, and like it's like, oh, just because there's their emergency, that's not, I don't have to have that same urgency. It's not my emergency, it's theirs. And so, when I actually wake up pretty early most days, like 5-ish, 6. Some days it's a later start, like 7 or 8. And when I'm, getting into the swing with things, that's when I'm like, okay, maybe checking my emails is not the first thing I should do in the morning. Maybe it's like getting some water. Maybe it's like making my cup of coffee and easing into my day, because I feel like more when I rush into it and like try to like tackle these emails, that's when I get, fatigued. That's when I'm realizing that I feel like I'm always working and that's exhausting. And now it's also in that same sense, it's like, okay, when I'm done with my job at work, I close Slack and I do not check Slack at all. I remove Slack from my phone. That is like me setting up a barrier. When I'm just tired, I'm just tired. And like before I used to be like, oh, I have to power through. I have to do this. One more email or whatever. Like, no, now if I'm tired, I literally close my laptop. And I just put on Netflix or Hulu, or I mean, I have all the streaming services and now I'm actually utilizing them. Before I wasn't. I was just wasting money. But now it's like, oh no, I just started watching The Blacklist. I'll be able to finish it, Now it's like finding like those things that brings me joy or just like takes my mind off of work, and not feeling guilty. It's a huge thing, because I think oftentimes, especially in brand culture or whatever, that there's a sense of guilt of when you're doing nothing. And sometimes I feel that, but I'm getting so much better in that place than I was last year. People ask to have meetings with me on the weekends. I'm like, and I used to do that, and now I'm like, no. I need my weekends now. I cannot, just because it works best for you, we have to find a time Monday through Friday, because I need my weekends. I just need some sort of work balance. Even though we're all working at home, most of us, and it feels like there is off, but I'm really trying to create those things that, have those boundaries, tell people no, and really just, again, maintain some sense of normalcy in these weird times we're in. So, yeah, I hope I answered that question.
Yeah, I mean, great for you for setting boundaries, which
It's
can be
hard. It's
yeah.
really hard. It shouldn't be. Like, I used to feel so guilty, and what I've realized, especially with the work that I do, that there's always going to be work that needs to be done, right? I have to remember that all these issues that existed in this industry existed long before I was born, and they're going to hopefully not as much, but they may continue even after, like. And so it's just like, just remembering that you can only do so much, and not letting that defeat you, realizing that, especially me, because I get a lot of requests, like a lot of individual requests, and realizing that I can only help, I can't help everyone in the way that maybe they need, right? And realizing that, there's still value in the work that I'm doing. It's still making a huge impact, and collectively for the community, but also for the industry. And again, realizing, like you said it, like I'm literally one person. I'm literally human. And I'm also still navigating this waters myself. I'm 27 years old, right? Like, I'm still learning. I'm still navigating this industry myself, and giving myself that grace to do so, and making sure people give me grace as I do it as well, has really just, again, changed everything for me. Because before I was like, it has to be done. I have to do it. I can't say no. Like, and now I'm like, okay, no, Polly, take a step back, breathe, do what you can, and whatever you can't do, there's always tomorrow. So that's just like how I've been approaching it now.
Amazing. And I know that you're like a huge fan of accountability groups, and when you're doing when you start something and you're going about it on your own, those things can be a huge like pillar to lean on.
Mm-hmm.
So can you like tell us a little bit more about accountability groups and how it's been beneficial for you?
Yeah. So last year, I think last year was the first. Yeah, we did last year we did a vision board party right before or right after the new year. Just creating a cute little vision board of like the things that we want to achieve for the year. It was coupled, I mean, maybe it was like 25 of us or so, like it's a very intimate setting. And we were just doing this virtually, just like magazine cutouts or whatever. You did it through online, but we made a vision board of the things that we wanted to achieve. And then after that, we paired up to people, again, with like one or two people that had, similar interests, similar goals as you, to really hold you accountable for the year. And for me, like what I needed accountability the most on was just like wellness, like drinking my water, like going to sleep. And so I had someone always like text me reminders, and we didn't have a channel in Slack for this. Um, and so that was what I really needed. But I really like, these accountability groups, especially when they're really intimate, because one, in a large community, sometimes it's nice to have those communities within community. And so I've seen where, people have paired up for the accountabilities, but also people have paired up, like mothers in BWP have paired up. And so now there's like a motherhood channel, and a monthly motherhood not Slack, but Twitter Spaces, where they have that community within a community. And there's just been other like subgroups that have been forming, and accountability partners was one of them, because again, you know, everybody make, well, not maybe everybody, but most people make New Year's resolutions, but how many keep them after like January 21st, right? Like, I know how many times I put like fitness as one of my New Year's resolutions, and I was one of those people that you did not see in February. So for me, it's like realizing, okay, I know who I am and I know how I work, and just finding somebody else that could understand that and communicate with me, and we can help push each other, because sometimes that's all you need is a little cheerleader. And so people, have been pairing up. People have been very clear and like, what are they looking for in an accountability partner? Is it that cheerleader, or is it that person to say like, hey, this is due in 2 days, have you applied for it yet? Whatever it is, and whatever your style of communication and preferences, just finding somebody to help push you along can make all the difference in making whatever goals that you have set for yourself, actually seeing them through. And I say this because, again, as someone that when you have so many things going on, sometimes, again, it's easy to forget something. It's easy to like feel that defeat, especially like maybe you apply for something and you didn't get it, or whatever the case may be. Having that partner that you can turn to, ask for advice, lean on for support, vent to, whatever, has really been, a huge game changer for the members who've been participating in this like sub community. So, yeah.
Amazing. So being behind the scenes, now that you have, built such a large community, and you started the process by, sending out a survey. So you have insight to, the top issues that these women and photographers have navigating the industry. What type of advice from a business perspective would you give to photographers when navigating, when it comes to the business aspect of things? What should they be thinking about and putting forward to advocate for themselves in a better way?
No, I was just talking. I was just talking to the. So part of the work I do, I serve as the DEI co-chair for MPPA, which is another organization, and yeah, we were just talking about how, as photographers, we're not good business folks. We're not like we just don't approach things from a business mindset, and we have to start thinking as ourselves as business owners. I mean, if you have a photography practice, you're making money, you are a small business owner. You have to think like a business. You have to set your rates. You have to, be able to have all these like business like skills that you don't learn until you start doing it, or until you start trial by error. You make it, you make a mistake. You take that L, you learn the hard way. And so for me, that's why a lot of the workshops that I've been doing have been catered to things that you wouldn't know unless you took a course, or you learned the hard way along the way. So, for example, like contracts and understanding the language in contracts, different terms like usage and rights and licensing, Even just like, it's a brand new year, setting your rates, right? Thinking about like, okay, what are the things that are happening just in regular business? There's inflation. We see stores increase their prices all the time to, because of inflation. Why, as we as photographers, why are we not doing the same? Why do you still have the same rates for the last 30 years? When, inflation has changed, especially it's an all-time high right now here in the States. And so not thinking like a business owner will keep you, from getting to that actual point where you can make a living from your practice. Um, thinking about just even taxes is around the corner, and I was just talking to my mom like I need to get a CPA because I need to like figure out how to be working smarter in this area. Like I've never thought about it as a business, but there's a million things I could be writing off from trips, from just like my website costs or whatever. Like there's a million things I can be writing off in my taxes that if I had a CPA, if I was doing this from the beginning, if I was making a mental checklist, a written checklist, something, or my CPA or whoever, like if I was having this like actually laid out, like I wouldn't be feeling so stressed right now. I'd be fine. It would just be another day. But now I'm feeling that anxiety because I didn't have that in order. And so there's all these different things that we're creatives. We think creatively, like I can tell you a million creative ideas I have and I could probably execute most of them. But like when it comes to the business part, it's like, oh wait, taxes. Oh wait, maybe I should charge more. Maybe I'm underselling myself. Maybe I should negotiate this contract. We get scared to do things like that. Or we just don't know how. It's very intimidating, especially if maybe that was a dream client that you've always wanted to work with, but realizing that maybe it's not smart in a business perspective, that's a whole different thing. So again, just thinking about all those things. And if you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel to check out some of the workshops that are still available for the public, because it will really help get your wheels turning and help you work smarter, not harder. This year is hopefully the goal for everyone. It is for me. And so, yeah, I think really it's just spending time to just like learn those different things. There's a lot of free resources starting in mine and others that you can turn to really make sure you have the business foundation set for yourself. I think that's the most important thing to do this first quarter of the year. And I'm saying this again because I'm doing it myself. I'm still making sure I have my foundation, my fundamentals down, and so making sure you have that will just help you so much, down the road. Because ever since I heard the quote about like photography is like actually taking photos is 10%, business is 90% of it, my game changed. Like my whole like perspective and just even the way I've approached things, even the way I've looked for work, even the work I've negotiated, or the work I turned down, like all came down back to that quote. All came down to like, am I making a business decision or making just why am I really doing this? What is it serving? How can I do this in a smarter way? Like that is just like how I'm moving now, that I wish I was moving like 10 years ago, but we learn, we live and we learn. So yeah.
Yes, and know your worth, right?
Absolutely.
So I don't know if you've been like thinking this far out, but what is your ultimate vision for Black women photographers? Is there like a 5-year plan, or are you letting things evolve and seeing where the most valuable pieces are?
Yeah, I'm just I really am, trying to see, let it evolve because it's been evolving so, in the most organic way right now. Um, because every time someone asks me like, what is your 5-year plan? Like, I'm like, y'all, I'm like, the first thing I think about is like, did you have, a global pandemic in your 5-year plan? No, I'm pretty sure none of us had this in our 5-year plan. And so for me, it's now realizing that like I can make as many plans as I want and things can just like change in an instant, right? And starting to, realize that I don't have as much as control as maybe I would like to, has actually helped me because it's helped me realize that, you really, again, especially being in news, like you just have to adapt. You just never know. Like when I'm in the news, it's like I never knew when the news was breaking. You never know. You just adapt or whatever. And so in that same sense, like I know like long term, I want to make sure that this is still a safe community, safe space for, photographers who look like me. I want to make sure that they are still, being seen, they are being hired, they are getting paid their worth and more. Like I know that those are the core things, and education especially has also been core to the work that I do. But honestly, I can only tell you I have like 2 quarters planned out at a time, if that. So everything else has just been, seeing where, this community takes me or us, or I should say, or whatever, like what's happening in the industry. Um, it really is just something that I really just have to navigate as I go. It's so hard to think about like 5 years from now. I mean, 5 years from now, if I don't have a team in place, you can just like tell me like I need to get it together. So that I do know that will absolutely happen. And if it doesn't, then I have this video to hold me accountable. Like, what are you doing, Polly? So, that's all I could say.
All right, so I'll do a check-in to see how the team building is going.
5 years later, right?
All right, so how do photographers join the platform at this point? Like, what's the process like now?
Yeah, the process is pretty simple. It does take several weeks for folks to hear back, because I get that question asked a lot. But if you just head to blackwomenphotographers.com, you'll see there's a tab called Apply. You can see testimonials from members in the community who found this space to be beneficial to them. And you'll just answer a few basic questions, who you are, what you do, share a link to your work, why you want to join this community, how you can help support this community, and where did you hear about, this community? Where did you hear about BWP? And so it's very simple. I really, again, I try not to create additional barriers in this industry. And so for that reason, anyone who identifies is allowed to be a part of this community, whether you are, someone who started your journey 2 years ago or someone who's been in this industry for 10 plus years, whether you do outdoors or you do photojournalism. If you are going to be, a positive addition to the community, you are more than welcome to join the community. And so again, it's kind of, it's really incredible that I really haven't had the chance to do any like targeted, ads or whatever. Like I really just have been having people join through word of mouth, through, seeing how it's been impacting members online and elsewhere. Like, they hear from members directly how it's been beneficial to them in their careers. And so a lot of it has just been growing organically through word of mouth, through social media. And so now I even, there's actually a couple, 100 who have been waiting to get into the community, that will hopefully be accepted by the end of, this month, for the first quarter, like wave of acceptance. Like, again, it takes me several weeks. So it really is amazing, because now I'm just like, wow, like, there's like Black women photographers in all these places that I would never think of, but they are here. And I'm like, yes, like, how can I help support you? How can I make sure this industry knows that you are there, that people, hire locally, that now is the goal, as well as making sure every corner gets, the love that they deserve, the work, the spotlight that they deserve, because it's hard, right? Especially for those who are based internationally, for them trying to, get any type of opportunities is completely different compared to us here in the States. And so that is just like the biggest thing for me is, okay, as this community continues to grow, making sure that, in that same sense, so do the offerings, for everyone can get the support that they need as well. So
That's amazing that you have so many photographers in queue to join. What Like we're gonna go to Q&A soon, but before we go, is there anything new and exciting coming up with the platform that we could look out for, or anything that's going on now that you want to share?
Yeah, so actually last month, so to start off the month, I had Red Bull's photo team. Red Bull was one of the first brands that actually worked with BWP and used the directory to hire. They've actually been one of the most consistent brands hiring from the directory as well. And so their photo team joined us for a Q&A about an hour about what they look for in photographers when they hire. And so that is just such a good, like we packed a lot of information that 1 hour. Like, I'm very good at that. So again, head to the YouTube channel, Black Women Photographers, and check out that Q&A. Also last month, this woman from Instagram's Reels team, Kimber, she joined the community to give members best practices for Reels. I know people have lots of thoughts about Instagram, but Reels is one of their main priorities right now. And in order to do well on Instagram, you might as well learn how to utilize Reels. And so I wanted to go to get that I wanted to get that information, straight from the horse's mouth in that sense. And so I was fortunate to have Kimber from the Reels team at Instagram to join us for that. So those were the first two events last month. This month, we have some cool things in store. So we're going to be continuing our partnership with Visco. I'm doing a couple of Twitter spaces with Visco and some members in the community, as well as the IWMF. They're an amazing media platform for women journalists. We're going to be talking about, mental health, protecting it. They have a therapy relief fund that photographers can apply to. So we're going to be doing that. And what else we have going on? So also this month we have the print sale, which I'm always excited about our annual print sale. This is the second one, but I'm still always excited because man, the work is just so beautiful. Like I'm telling y'all, just go to blackwomanphotographers.com. The first thing you'll see is a link to go to the darkroom site to buy some prints, get some work on your walls. You will not regret it. And then in addition to that, trying something new this year where we're doing the 28 days of giveaway, which basically is, giving away a photo book from a Black author every single day. So this I'm really excited about because if you think about what's being taught in schools relating to photography, and then hold that into more related to Black photographers and their contributions to the industry, it's not that much is being taught. And so there's a lot of people who just don't know about the great books from Black photographers that are out there in the world, especially if photographers, maybe they're self-publishing these books. So each day this month for Black History Month, we're giving away a photo book. A lot of heavy hitters have already been named and a lot more to come. And so, if you just follow at Black Women Photographers on Instagram, can't miss it. You'll see the graphic called giveaway with the book that's being given away for that day. I'm actually about to post today's giveaway in the next few hours. But I mean, so far there's been Carrie Mae Weems, there's been Nadine, who's based in London. There's been Black Fashion Fair, which is this new organization for Black fashion designers, but they just started this print publication that just launched this week, and it's already sold out.
Sold out. I was looking on the website, a copy, and it's gone.
It was sold out like that, and so I bought 3 copies. One for myself, obviously, but one for the member Jessica, who has been helping me create this giveaway list, who's helped me put this together, and one to give away it's a collector's edition of one of the covers, photographed by AB and DM. They're this dynamic photo duo. Ahmad Barber and Dante Maurice. They actually spoke to the community last year. I mean, they have been killing it nonstop in this industry, and so that work is by them, and so that whole team, that makeup is again Black photographers, designers, and so very proud to have snagged a copy before it sold out, and we'll be giving that away. That's just one of the many throughout this month I will be giving away. So head to the Instagram. It's very easy. It'll take you 2 seconds to follow, and then like 5 seconds to actually apply to each giveaway. Some of them, the winners have already been announced, but the one I just mentioned about Dante and Ahmad and Carrie Mae Weems and others, They have yet to be finalized. The winners have yet to be picked. They will be announced every Friday of each week until the month is up. So I'm very excited about that. Oh, and one thing that I haven't said much about because I really wanted it to be a surprise, but last year, towards the end of last year, I announced the first ever awards for Black women photographers. And I did this awards initiative because thinking about the awards landscape in the photo industry and thinking about the awards and things I've sat on or things I've seen being put out there, a lot of them, most of them, they don't serve us. They don't serve, Black photographers in the same sense as our counterparts. You think about the list of who wins, the people who are sitting on those juries. It's not a true reflection of, the work that's being put out there, the talent that is out there. And so instead of waiting to be invited or waiting to be, recognized in these spaces, I decided, why don't we start our own awards? Because I feel like people forget that, the weight that something like Vogue magazine has, or the Pulitzer, Prize, the weight that those things have, it didn't happen overnight. At one point, it was their first publication or the first awards or competition or whatever. And so for me, I really find that this will just be a really incredible resource to the industry in the next few years. So I'm very excited because I'm going to be rolling out the winners very soon, in a matter of weeks. So this will be the first awards edition. Again, I'm very quiet about this because I really want to do this well. And so you guys, if you follow the channels, you'll see the news. You won't miss it. But I really hope that, this will be soon. When I think about all the different awards and competitions out there, I see this going to be in the same caliber as all of them in the years to come. So I'm very excited.
Wow, that's amazing.
Thank you.
No, it is. And it's such a huge feat and will add so much to the people that are going to be honored and highlighted. That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I'm telling you, like for the grants with, so we had several different grant opportunities, but for the grants with Nikon, over 1,300 people applied. For these awards, over 3,000 people were nominated. So it's going to be a lot. It's a lot of work. It has been a lot of work that I've been so busy with these past few weeks. Almost there with the finishing touches before it can be put out in the world. But again, having that kind of reception only tells me how much it's needed, right? How many awards do you know that are for Black women photographers? So for me, it's like being able to start this, and I'm sure after I start mine, more others will follow, but being able to be the first in this space to do it, again, with this kind of level of just like really for the community, I'm really excited about this. I really am. So more to come on that soon.
All right. Well, can't wait to see it. That's amazing. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your amazing story. The work that you're doing is really incredible. So thank you. And I'm going to open it up for a Q&A before we close. How does it feel to accomplish so much?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, obviously, it feels good, right? I know my work is making a difference. I see that impact every day. But I think it's just the type of person I am. I'm like, but there's so much work to be done. Like, I'm trying to get better at actually like celebrating like the big moments, or not even big moments, the small moments especially as well, and taking time to really celebrate, the work that is being done. But it's so hard because for me, it's like I'm always just thinking, okay, what next, or this still hasn't been done, or whatever. And so I feel good though. I feel good. I'm very, grateful for, again, the reception, the support from the industry, from the members. And I know that it's just only the beginning, so I'm excited about what's to come.
Does Black women photography work with the younger age groups?
As I mean, I guess it just depends on define younger. Anyone who identifies and is practicing photography is welcome to apply. I don't know. I think maybe the youngest members are in high school. I haven't seen anything below that. I'm not I wouldn't not, welcome them, but I think high school has been like the youngest so far. So it really just depends again who hears about it because I haven't done any like targeted outreach to, schools or universities. So it's really just been word of mouth. So yeah.
Have you ever felt like giving up your organization? If so, what helped you push through? I guess it's have you ever felt like giving up? And if so, like what motivated you to keep pushing forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think we all have different lows and the lows will look different for everyone, but absolutely. I mean, I've had several low moments. And I think you have to just get down to remembering your why, why is it that you're here? Like, what is it that, brings you joy? How do you create those moments of joy if you're not finding any at the moment? Um, Remembering to do this work. I mean, for me, again, it's because like for me, it's like, okay, I have this organization and I have all these members, looking up to me. Um, looking for guidance, looking at me to, help push things forward. And so remembering that is like one of the reasons and like, and why am I doing this work? I want to see these kind of changes um and I want to help be a part of the solution and not the problem. And so when I remember the different whys that I do the work that I do, that, that really helps centers me and gives me that reset. And sometimes you maybe just need to have a break. Maybe you just do need to take a step back um, and take time or whatever, and make sure you don't out because work will always be there. And so, for me, it's just remembering like why I do the work I do and why it's important. Really just helps keeps me going. So.
How did you first find community among photographers?
I think through social media. I started my photo journey in Oregon, and I felt like I was away from everything. I didn't have that physical community, so having like online virtual community was really like a huge difference for me when I first started. So I believe like Twitter, Instagram, and I started joining different organizations, as I mentioned, NABJ, the National Association for Black Journalists. I was able to find community there, and that was amazing. That was a huge turning point for me. And then eventually, of course, building my own. But I think, through social media, through different initiatives within NABJ, and then, of course, just eventually like looking at extended network and networking in that sense, that has helped me, first make, my own personal community before eventually launching my own. So.
All right, Polly, I think that was our last question.
Okay.
But thank you again for joining us. And I can't wait to see your work continue to grow, and definitely looking forward to seeing you roll out the awards. That's pretty major.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited. So, yeah. So I'm like, that's why I'm like, when you tell me like, oh, what's your 5-year plan? I'm like, I just want to get through the first quarter because I feel like there's so many things going on within BWP already. So I'm like, yeah, let me just get for the first quarter. Oh, and I forgot, and then this is why I keep saying, like, yeah, this is why a team would be so amazing. Because one of the things that we're doing, we're continuing our partnership, I mentioned with Visco, but also continuing our partnership with Afropunk. So we'll continue to give, Black women photographers the chance to photograph Afropunk festivals this year. And so we currently have a contest going on for February under the name of Hair and celebrating Black hair and culture. And so if you just look through Afropunk's feed, you can see just the different ways that you can enter. Really just post a photo, celebrating Black hair and culture and tagging us, BWP and Afropunk. And you can be entered to photograph one of their festivals. So, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited about, just again, what's to come within the organization. I'm grateful for the opportunity to just share a little bit about my platform and myself. So thank you so much, Carly Ann.
You're welcome. All right, so everyone, check out blackwomenphotographers.com. We'll drop the link in the Q&A section, and also check out entrepreneuracademy.com or parsonsentrepreneur.com, and you can join our network to stay updated on more amazing interviews like the one we just had with Polly. All right. Bye, Polly. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you so much.